What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sideline Specialists, episode 12. We have been on a hiatus here. Summer has had a lot. And this week, we are going to talk some NFL predictions, talk about some rookies. We're going to talk about the NBA offseason additions, subtractions, the Olympics that we missed, and we're going to check in with the MLB playoff race. So let's start the little intro.
Welcome to Sideline Specialists.
All right, and we're in it. I just kind of picked a random song there. So,
Hey,
what's up,
Oh,
Tom?
man.
What's going on?
not much. Let me get some light in here. There we go. I've turned
There.
on the sun. We are ready. Actually,
I
no, I should
forgot-
turn on the light above me. That thing is the good sun. Holy shit.
I forgot how bright my lights are since I haven't done this and I haven't done Atlantic Files in so long. And I turned them all on for this, and I'm like, damn, these things are bright.
Dude, now hold up. Like, seriously, watch this crap. This light that's like, you can't see it, but it's literally like right here. This thing
Okay.
is the brightest thing on the planet.
Oh God. Oh, the room just instantly.
Bruh.
Yeah, the room
Even-
just instantly was like 50 shades lighter.
Yeah, I that thing is never on. Even when I'm under it, it's just like, but nah, sports have been fun when I can watch, but life has just been like so busy. So if anybody pops in here and is like, hey, where the hell did all those videos getting posted go? Life happened. I'm thinking of new ideas, and we'll get back to that. So
Yes. Life indeed sure did happen. Because I
Yeah.
did like 4 of those basketball ones, which appreciate everyone watching them. They did. It seemed as though everyone liked them. They liked the football ones. They liked the hockey ones. So it seems like everybody likes those. So we will definitely do them with future drafts. However, yeah, life happened.
and now it's just thinking of like in-season video ideas, stuff like that. I mean, I'll come up with some stuff, try and actually post them regularly when I have the time, but
Yeah.
fear not. The
Yes, we
content will
definitely have
flow
more.
yet again.
Oh, yes. Especially with sports coming, other than just baseball. Well, baseball and now WNBA has resumed as well. There will be also a lot more football topics and a lot more sports topics in general. But before we get to football, talked about the Olympics real quick. So let's bring that up here first. So
Hell yes.
USA gold medal winners again. I don't want to say I expected it, but I expected it. I mean, if we're being honest, US plays up for the Olympics. We all know this. They really don't care about the World Cup, so they always send like a B team to the World Cup. So yeah, really the only game that scared me was the game against Serbia. And I should say the semifinal game against Serbia, because the pool play game, the US destroyed them. But the semifinal game against Serbia was just downright outrageous. That game, I was literally watching that game from my cubicle in my office and was just glued to my phone. I literally wasn't paying attention to anything else. I was just watching on my phone this whole time. They were down by like 15. I was like, we're really about to lose in the fucking semifinals of the Olympics right now. Like, we're about to prove Noah, the
The
sprinter,
runner, Noah Lyles. Yeah.
Noah Lyles. We're about to prove him right. And I was really worried about it. And then all of a sudden, US comes storming back. Embiid had a good game. Durant had a great game. Steph Curry was just absolutely insane. LeBron led the way. Like that, if that semifinal game was the gold medal final, that might go down as like one of the best, if not the best, international game ever played. Because it was just that stupid.
No, he was literally a berserker at the end of
Yeah.
that game. And that like the dagger shot that he hit, that just physics shouldn't have allowed that.
No.
Like he
No.
looked off balance, but it's Steph Curry, so he's like never actually off balance. Yeah, he was a magician. Saved the US for sure.
Yeah. Both semifinals and finals. Like the French game, I mean, hitting 3 threes in a row to end the game. Just, what? And the picture where it shows Durant and LeBron wide open and Curry taking the 3 with 2 defenders in his face. He's literally the only player that can take that shot and people are like, "Okay." With Durant and LeBron wide open.
Exactly. No, he's special. And it's one of those, like, we didn't really need a reminder that he's special, but we got one anyway. Like,
right.
Especially like the point you made. It's like what that team was loaded with. And he still was just like stand out. To stand out of a group that exceptional is special.
Right. And that's the thing is like this team was hyped up as they should have been as the Avengers, and people were already making jokes after exhibition games, like when they beat South Sudan by 1 point in an exhibition game. People were like, "Oh, these are the Avengers." Every time the US kept winning the actual Olympic games, I'm like, again, this is why you don't freak out about exhibition games. Stop being stupid.
Well,
it's just like freaking out about preseason games.
Yeah. Well, it's the same deal, right? Like you're Steve Kerr and you're given the absolute best in the NBA and Derek White. And then you're like, I need to figure out who should be on the floor with who, what sort of like scheme we should actually be running on the floor. Like there's so many variables. It's not like it's just plug and play. It isn't. These guys all have different traits that have made their NBA teams better.
Right.
And they're the stars on them. So you have to mesh that. And it's why like guys like Tatum basically saw no minutes. And it just, he had to play what he thought was best. And obviously he did. He got the gold. So it's like success. But it's just, watching it was just so fun. And then seeing Embiid actually show up in some clutch moments, I was like, thank God, because
yes,
I did not need to hear the rest of the freaking NBA fandom saying, "Oh, you choke artist again."
I know. Like the semifinal game against Serbia, like he really did play well, and especially offensively. And even against France, he had some big moments, and it was just really nice to see. And I just really hope that kind of thing carries over. Like now that you've been in that higher pressure situation, carry that over to the actual NBA season and NBA postseason. Obviously, that's the hope for everybody.
I mean, I just want him to have that gold literally in his locker and see it every game. To remind, like, just as a reminder, like, how'd that feel? Like, how good did that feel? Like, just you want it again, then do it again. It just, we need it. And obviously, with the massive signing of Paul George, it's like you gotta. I mean, especially that too. It's like you think about the Ben Simmons trade for James Harden. It's like, yeah, it was a big deal. For a guy like Paul George to sign a deal that big in free agency, it's like that's a bigger deal because that doesn't happen really. Right. So this is like the year. Where we need to see the growth, the development on the floor. We need to see the chemistry between Embiid and Maxey go to another level, and then obviously Paul George needs to just go, okay, I am what I am. I need to fit into this team the best way and contribute as like, I mean, I know he's older. The dude still balls. And anybody who's criticizing the Clippers, there's a reason the Clippers just have not gotten over a hump, regardless of who was coaching there. It's just like you need depth first off. And then if your guy in Kawhi Leonard is that injury prone, that you miss. I mean, like how many of the years of that duo did we miss because one or both were hurt? It's just like the full potential there was obviously not unlocked. We just need to hope in Philly that it is.
Exactly. They had 1 year where they were actually healthy. They made it to the Western Conference Finals, and like they lost in a pretty close series. But I think one of them ended up getting hurt in that Western Conference Finals. So again, they weren't healthy for the whole run.
Yeah.
I
think it was.
But yeah,
I think it was Kawhi. I think it was Kawhi because I
think
remember
so too.
like they were looking pretty good, and obviously to make the conference finals, like that's no one's gonna knock that. Like that is an achievement for a season, and it showed the potential at least of that idea. But it just they never got over that hump, and obviously like I'm just gonna take it with a grain of salt. Like I'm just gonna chill and just see how it looks. Like I don't want to get too hyped, but I'm pretty stoked.
No, yeah, in that playoff run, it was 2020, 2021. Paul George averaged 26.9 points, 9.6 rebounds, 5.4 assists, and 1 steal a game.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah. In 19
was that the
playoff
was
games.
that the bubble?
I think it was
the bubble season. They lost to the Lake Show. I think so.
It probably was. Let's see.
I'm just thinking.
No, this was the year after.
Okay.
Because they lost to Phoenix. That's when Phoenix went to the finals.
That Phoenix team was great. I just feel like in the playoffs they hit another gear.
Oh yeah. And Chris Paul was actually healthy. Like,
but I just remember, like, if you looked at that roster right now, like that exact roster they had, and like put it up against the teams that have been making it recently, I feel like you'd predict they'd get smoked. Like,
oh yeah.
Especially now that we know that like what Ayton actually like is. It's just not. I don't know.
And to be fair, they actually came pretty close to winning that championship against the Bucks. I mean, they only lost 4-2. It's not like they got swept or anything. So
even the games a couple of the games they lost were tight, like till the last. I mean, we're talking like 10 seconds. I mean, that was a good series to watch.
Yeah, I agree. It was nice seeing two different teams in the final for that too.
That's why I think I enjoyed watching it so much, because it was just like. It's Phoenix for the first time since like the mid 2000s ish, and then like the Bucks being there was just, for Giannis at the time I was happy for him, but like since then Giannis just acts so much more like a goddamn soccer player. I'm like, I can't I can't do it.
And the way that like the media talks about Giannis is just like, all right, enough, like chill. Like that's always what makes me hate players more, is like if their fan base is just like ridiculous on social media, and B, if the media just does not shut up and acts like they have to report on every little thing that they do during a day.
Exactly.
It's
and he's like, I get that he is who he is. He's an absolute great player. Oh, easily one of the best of this generation of players. It's like you can never knock that. It's just like, if I have to watch this guy shoot free throws, I think I'd rather gouge my eyes out. There are things about him. It's just like I can't.
Gonna grow cobwebs before he shoots a free throw.
Oh, yeah. The spider will make the web. It'll become a cobweb. The spider will be deceased, and then he'll miss. He'll brick it, and you're like, thanks, bud. Awesome.
Oh god. But so real quick, I'll just touch on some like key off-season things. Obviously, you brought Paul George to the Sixers. The Sixers had the most movement because they were one of the teams that literally only had 2 players on contracts going into the offseason. So they re-signed Kyle Lowry, KJ Martin, Tyrese Maxey gets his max extension, which he obviously deserves. Kelly Oubre Jr. returns on a 2-year deal as well. Then they brought in Andre Drummond back,
Let's go.
Paul George, like we said, Eric Gordon is coming in. Reggie Jackson was one of the later ones to agree on a deal. Caleb Martin, another huge addition in terms of role players. And then post-Olympics, Gershon Yabusele joins the team. For those who are wondering who that might be, he is the one that dunked on LeBron in the gold medal game. That is the guy they're bringing in.
There it is.
And in terms of departures, Batum left, Mo Bamba left, thank God. Buddy Hield left, DeAnthony Melton is out, Campaign is out, and Paul Reed was also waived, and he is now on his way to Detroit.
I'm kind of like the only one in that whole thing I'm actually a little bummed about is Melton.
Yeah.
I love defensive guards. Like there's just moments where they can be incredibly helpful. The Buddy Hield one was like, I know, hot, like fire and ice for a lot of fans, just because it's like, okay, you traded for him. It would make more sense that you actually would try to keep him. But thinking about how the playoffs went, and he just really was not there. And even for the time he was, like the chemistry just never seemed to be improving. It's just like, don't bother with it. You're gonna sign Paul George to this deal. You fill the rest of the roster with guys that have experience, and then Drummond, I think, was literally as perfect a backup center signing as we could have ever managed.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't think he should have ever been let go. Personally, I think he just fit so well. Because that's the one thing we literally have lacked always. If Embiid's off the floor, we never have size. We desperately needed that, and it was so obvious. And he's perfect for that. I mean, he fits the culture. So I love the Reggie Jackson signing too. I think that was just like
that was smart. Very underrated.
Like so sneaky smart, because it's just the guy is a good player. He's I mean, he was on that Nuggets championship team. Am I wrong? I'm pretty sure he was Murray's backup at that point, or was it 1 year too late?
I think he was. I'm pretty sure he was, actually.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me.
I'm like 95% sure.
Yeah, he was. So I mean, it's like,
yeah,
I have to at least like acknowledge that, right? I mean, it's not like he played a ton, but the dude's been in the league for a long time. Played on really good teams. He was on those OKC teams before they dismantled. I mean, and he earned that. He went through Detroit Piston purgatory for a long time. So,
well, yeah, I was just about to say, and when he was in Detroit, he played with Andre Drummond for 4 or 5 years. So he has a lot of chemistry with Andre Drummond, who he'd most likely be on the court with when the backups come in. So having that kind of chemistry there is underrated too.
These are all smart. And he was actually on that conference finals team for the Clippers we were talking about.
Yep.
I think he might have been starting then too.
I think he was. So I think he was for a while. And I love the signing of Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin is like the forward, like the type of role he's going to be like asked to play is going to essentially be like the Derek White role, but as a forward.
Yeah.
So like that's going to be his thing. He's the Swiss Army knife. He can do so many things. He has the ability to go get 20 points one night if you need him to, but then also has the ability to go lock up like one of their best players as well. So I love that signing big time, especially if you have like a combination of like Maxey, Paul George, Oubre, Caleb, and Embiid on the floor at the same time. That's ridiculous.
but that's the nice thing about this team too, is you could like feasibly you could actually just put Paul George in as a 2.
Yeah.
And because that's his game is versatile enough that like he'll just do the job. Like obviously you're gonna have Maxey ball handling for the most part, but it's but that's the thing. Like game to game, I feel like we are now able to make better matchups for ourselves. Whereas in years past, it was literally like if Embiid's off, then that matchup is just screwed because like it's either going to be Paul Reed in there and he's too small, or it's going to be Mo Bamba and he's the skinniest human being alive. Like he just gets demolished. So it just feels better, and I'm happy about it because for once the offseason actually makes sense.
Yeah.
It was just so annoying being on freaking NBA Twitter that night, though, and all the people being like, "Where's the signing?" It's like, bro, have you heard of these things called time zones? What do you mean?
Oh man, that was fun. The thing I love to hear, I was seeing an interview. Actually, it might have been the Paul George's podcast when they brought on Lil Dicky, and they saw like he was part of the pitch to get Paul George to Philly, and Lil Dicky's whole pitch was like, dude, the same size house in LA you can buy in Philly for like a quarter of the price.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm sitting in a $2 million mansion in LA right now. $2 million in Philly will get you 3 times the size of house.
Big
and
facts.
Paul George said how like that type of like frugal money saving, he was like, honestly, that helped sell me on it.
Because he is like a business guy too, though. It's like
right.
You watch his podcast and he puts a lot into it, like production wise. Like it, you know what I mean? But he thinks with the details. So that's why I like him as a player too, though, because he's not just like out there kind of aimlessly ever.
Yeah.
Like he looks for details. And obviously for him, it's like, okay, guy going to a team where a guy was an MVP 2 years ago. Maxi's obviously like the trajectory of his potential is just so obvious. Like he hasn't even come close to his full potential yet, and he's already an all-star. So you're like, all right, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like even when you saw the other teams that were like listed as potential, I'm like, no, I don't see why he would choose anywhere but Philly, to be honest.
Exactly. Agreed.
So
just some quick other things like DeMar DeRozan, he's heading to Sacramento from Chicago.
I love that
for
too.
them. Yeah, great addition for them. Toronto signed 2 of their young guys to max extensions who they're going to start building around, Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickly. Laurie Markkinen also agreed to a max extension, but the rumors keep surrounding him about being traded, but nobody wants to meet the price that they're asking for him. So that will be interesting to see how that develops. A lot more people just signing extensions. The Thunder did steal Isaiah Hartenstein away from the Knicks.
Yes, they did.
Speaking of the Knicks, they probably made the next biggest move, which was bringing in Mikal Bridges, on top of re-signing OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson to an extension. So they're looking pretty damn good. Yeah,
they are the Villanova Knicks. It's very like it's annoying for us a little bit because Villanova being local, it's like we always cheered for them, and now they're like on one of the 2 teams that we hate the most. So
yeah,
it's a little frustrating, but it's cool because you don't really see this happen in any sports, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
Chip Kelly tried to make the Oregon Eagles. That failed miserably because you have to be a good coach to stay around long enough to fulfill your shit dreams. But
did you see that podcast with LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson just talking all sorts of shit on him?
They called J-Mac and they called they called Jeremy Maclin and then they called Brandon Graham, I think, on the pod. And I think it was McCoy who called Graham, and Graham just goes, ass. It was just like
he was like, if you could describe Chip Kelly's tenure in Philly, ass.
Ass. But it's one of those, like, you look back, right? Like you see them on this podcast now and how tight they've been ever since they played together, and you realize what a special thing Chip Kelly destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
But you look at the other side of that coin and you go, if he did not decimate that team, all the dominoes do not fall that allow us to win a Super Bowl in 2017, period.
That's also true.
Like, period, end of story. Like, Foles doesn't get traded out then. McCoy doesn't, like, all that. It's crazy how that shit works.
Yeah.
But it is, like, 3 years later, though. Like, that's what's wild to me is the timeline. Like, 2014 was the last year where a bunch of those guys were Eagles. And some were gone already. Because I saw the home opener that year.
Right.
Like, it's the only Eagles game I've ever gone to. It was the home opener in 2014. They played the Jags. And Macklin had 2 touchdowns, like, right in front of me because I had a row 3 end zone seats, which was sick. Ertz was, like, literally in his second season. Like, it was just wild, like, how different. Sproles was RB1 with, I think, Ryan Matthews.
Oh, yeah.
Just, like, even thinking about that roster, you're like, Jesus Christ. The only thing that lasted that was there then was, like, the D line and the O line, like, period.
Oh, yeah. It was ridiculous.
Like, it was Kelsey Peters and Lane Johnson, and then, like, D line wise, Cox and Graham. Like, they were the only survivors of a just ridiculous, like, implosion of a team. But
I mean, it's essentially like the process, except that process was just a lot quicker.
yeah. Well, yeah, the process was Jeffrey Lurie being like, Chip Kelly, actually, this was a really horrendous idea. You're fired. Please get out of the NFL immediately. Howie, come back, save us. And he did. So there you go.
And Howie's still making deals. So, but yeah,
year.
So the Knicks will be very much improved. They also still get Julius Randle back. He's been hurt for the last, like, he was hurt for like the last 3 months of the season.
What are they like at center, though? Like, now that Hartenstein's gone.
So they still have Mitchell Robinson, who very good defensive center.
Yeah, I like him.
They brought in Keita Bates-Diop, who's like a power forward center.
Okay, so like Paul Reed-ish kind of deal. Like,
yeah, except
more
skinny.
Athletic. Yeah, but like just more athletic and like smaller than what you would think of as the center, basically, because that's kind of what we tried to do with Paul Reed. But.
Right. And then they re-signed Precious Achua, who again is like a smaller center-ish type of player. He's like 6'8", but he is more. He's a little more like built to like play down low than Paul Reed was.
Oh yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, and then
that's what's going to be interesting for them making a deep run. I think, to be honest, like,
oh yeah,
I don't doubt their scoring. I don't doubt their defense, and their ball movement. Obviously, the chemistry they should have on the floor should be like insane. Right. I would fully expect the Knicks, barring injury, to be a top 3 Eastern Conference team. Like,
losing Hartenstein definitely hurts, especially because like the next like actual center that's listed is like Jericho Sims, and he's been on the team. This will be his 4th year coming up, and he's barely played in his first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And again, he's also not a guy that's like super like, you know, bang down low type of guy that would be able to contain anybody like Joel Embiid or Jokic or any of those guys. So yeah, and the thing is, Mitchell Robinson has also been a very good friend of the injury report. Last year played 31 games. The year before played 59. Played 72 the year before that, but then 31 the year before that. So like, you never know if he's actually going to be playing or not. So that is definitely their biggest question mark right now, is center. Because like, I'm sure they'll play some small ball where they throw Julius Randle in at center, and then, you know, you got like OG, Bridges, Brunson, and Josh Hart, and you just like run a small ball team like that. But in the playoffs, you're not getting that far with just that small ball team. So
no.
So
the only team that managed to do anything even remotely like that was the Warriors, and they had the best shooting team I think we've like literally we've ever seen in NBA history. Like, it was just
exactly
like Sean Livingston was just like pulling from his youth like that. Iguodala was like, I mean, he literally won the MVP. You're just like, Jesus Christ. There was nothing anybody could do.
And like even when it progressed to where like you still had Draymond Green, who was a defensive player of the year. Kevin Durant, one of the best to ever play. Stephen Curry, best shooter to ever play. Klay Thompson, top 3 best shooter to ever play. Like there's a big gap there.
Yeah, exactly. It was like but it was so funny to see like a couple seasons after that, teams try to pull like the same thing. It's like, bro, they had the perfect ingredients. Like they had everything listed out, the amounts you needed to put in the recipe, everything like set, and you guys are putting the wrong ratios. Like it's just not happening.
Yeah. One of the other notable additions were for the Pelicans, which I'm very curious to see this coming season. They brought in DeJounte Murray from the Hawks in a trade. So now they have DeJounte, they have Zion, they have CJ McCollum, and they have Brandon Ingram. He's still in the rumor mill to be traded, but that's still waiting to be seen. So we'll see how that goes. But as of right now, they should be a fun team to watch. The Miami Heat pretty much stayed the same. The only thing they added was Alec Burks, and they lost Caleb Martin, which is big for them because Caleb Martin played a huge role there. Memphis, they essentially stayed the same, but their whole issue last year was everybody was hurt. So they'll be better.
And I think they got rid of what's his face? The dude who was on Houston last year, Dylan Brooks. So I think like,
oh yeah,
like yeah. So I'm thinking like now that saga's gone and people can come back from injury, Morant hopefully is going to have a season where he's not in the media for some bullshit. They can actually build some chemistry and have a better locker room kind of just environment, because it seemed so dismal. Like you can't play when the environment's just that shit and negative all the time.
And instead of Dylan Brooks, you have Marcus Smart, who is a very good leader and veteran to have in the locker room and everything. So, and
a guy that, in my opinion, when he talks shit, can actually back it up most of the time.
Exactly.
Which is definitely a big deal. Like, you
and defensive player of the year.
Exactly. If you're gonna have guys who are gonna be mouthy, at least they better be able to play up to the level they're mouthing. Like,
exactly.
Don't be out here being fraudulent. But
Lakers pretty much stayed the same. Clippers saw a little bit of turnover because of Paul George leaving. Russell Westbrook also left. He went to the Jazz. Went to the Jazz, got waived, then went to the Nuggets. Daniel Tice, Mason Plumlee also left, but they added Mo Bamba, Batum, Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., and Kevin Porter Jr., because, the Clippers just want to be assholes and add a guy like Kevin Porter Jr. after the whole domestic violence thing. And then
I went through, sorry, because you mentioned him.
I
went through all these cards I had at my dad's, because I obviously didn't bring all my stuff immediately.
Right.
I've randomly had Derek Jones Jr. Rookie autograph, just like in a box, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I know you." I was because I usually, like, when I know a card has some value,
right,
I put it like somewhere with other cards of value.
Right.
And that one, I think when I got it, he wasn't actually like anybody.
Yeah.
Immediately. And then
it's taken
since
him a
then,
while.
he's built himself a pretty good role. And he is such a freak athlete, but it's like, I was like, hey, cool. At least I have this.
Oh, I'll always like Derek Jones Jr. I mean,
he could, I swear to God, he could fly.
From Chester, went to Archbishop Carroll, like, always loved the local guys.
But that's what the thing too. I'm like, the fact that I have this, and he, like, where I was living at my dad's, I'm like, yeah, he grew up like 10 minutes from here, literally. Yeah. Like, this is dope.
Yeah, that's awesome. Pacers pretty much stayed the same. Rockets stayed the same. The Warriors had a little bit of turnaround because Chris Paul got waived. Dario Saric also went to the Nuggets. Klay Thompson was another big move there. He was a sign and trade to the Mavs. So Golden State turned around and got Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, and Lindy Waters III. Kyle Anderson. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say they upgraded.
Yeah, you can definitely argue that.
I just think
Clay,
you get like if he can find it again, he'll obviously fills the role,
right?
and he's not as injury prone now as Clay has been recently. So there's
True.
that. And then I look at Melton and I'm like, okay, Chris Paul I will always respect Chris Paul, but you are old as shit. I just like you don't have what you used to have in the same level. You bring in Melton, I think it's a better rotation guy to just put on somebody. And he can shoot. Like he's not horrible at shooting, but it's like
Right.
I just think overall what their signings bring to the team is better than what they lost given the ages and injury history.
Yeah.
So I think the Warriors will look a bit better this year. They just obviously have to build the chemistry because Clay's been there so damn long. Like that's where you're
Exactly.
gonna feel it. So
I mean, the bit like Clay's the obvious biggest loss because Chris Paul and Dario Saric, like Chris Paul was hurt a bunch. Saric was a depth option. Like those
yeah,
two, losing those two is not really anything. Kyle
yeah,
Anderson, I really like that addition for their team. But it to me, like Klay Thompson is if you combined Buddy Hield and DeAnthony Melton. So you kind of like get some of Klay Thompson
yeah,
with both of those two guys' skills
yeah.
put together. Um, so it'll just be interesting to see. Detroit did add a bunch of people because they didn't want to be a hopeless franchise again. Um,
And they're tired of losing the lottery.
yeah, that's the big one for sure.
Holy shit.
Cade Cunningham got his max extension as he should have. They brought in Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., good old Tobias Harris, Wendell Moore Jr., and Paul Reed. And all they
Sixers
lost was
Midwest.
Taj Gibson, Quentin Grimes, and James Wiseman. So
The Sixers Midwest. Yeah.
exactly.
The Sixers were like, we don't want you guys anymore. Detroit was like, get over here. It's like, all right. I think for a team like the Pistons, they improve a lot with those guys. And like, you know what I mean? Like, because you have to improve. They were where they were. Improving was like inevitable unless they literally did nothing. But it's not like no one's looking at them right now and going, oh, they're going to compete. They're not. They have a lot of building to do. And they haven't, I don't want to say lucked out, but like the way the Thunder have been doing things is the benchmark. And it's a benchmark that like no one's close to.
Exactly.
Especially like Giddey was in drama. They yeet Giddey out the door, bring Caruso in, which I thought was just like
a great
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And it's like Caruso, he has experience in OKC already. So it's like, why would you not trust that?
Exactly.
And then he's going to want to be there because the Bulls tried something. Everybody kept getting hurt. Absolutely sucks. To touch on that, Lonzo Ball apparently is like maybe going to play this year, which would be awesome, but we'll see.
I hope so.
Yeah. He finally like escaped all that bullshit with his dad and was trying to play and then has been off the court, over 2 years now ish?
Yeah. It was like his back and his knee.
Yeah.
It was something really weird. Like he couldn't even like walk up steps for a good while.
Yeah. I think it was similar to what Fultz kind of had going on, but just not in the same part of his body.
Like, yeah, I think so.
Like just things just didn't function at all, and even like through rehab and whatever, they were like, "What is happening?" Yeah. But I really want to see him play again. Oh, it's horrifying. It's just like imagine you wake up and that's like what's going on with your body.
Yeah,
it's like no, thank you.
No. But yeah, there's also the Nuggets brought in Saric and Westbrook. They lost Caldwell Pope, which is going to be huge for them, and lost Reggie Jackson. The Mavs added a few people. They did add Dinwiddie, Quentin Grimes, Najee Marshall on top of Klay Thompson. That should be interesting for them because Josh Green was a decent younger player for their depth. And then Derek Jones Jr. ended up being a big part of their defense. So losing those guys are going to be interesting to see what happens there. Cavaliers literally stayed the same. They didn't add anybody. They didn't lose anybody. All they did was sign 3 guys to extensions: Jared Allen, Donovan Mitchell, and Evan Mobley. Chicago, they added Chris Duarte, Josh Giddey, and Jalen Smith. They lost Caruso, DeRozan, and Drummond.
Piss off. She's so annoying.
What was it? The cat?
No, my girlfriend.
Oh,
There's a thing we're gonna watch tonight, and she's literally just like she refuses to shut up about it. It's ridiculous.
Oh God.
Well, our bedroom door is like right here, and anytime it opens, it makes like a smack noise, even when it's like you don't do anything. You just turn the knob, and it's like.
Oh.
So I heard that, so I'm like, let me look, and she's just like, I'm like, dude, please. Please.
Gotta be excited to watch stuff. What are you watching?
God. It's the reunion for this season of Love Island.
Okay.
The amount of post-show drama, like okay, go away, in Twitter and shit has literally been like wild.
Okay. We watched the first like 10, 11 episodes, and then we got to a point where we were both just kind of like, I don't feel like watching more of these episodes.
But
don't get me wrong, like it was dramatic and everything, but we got to a point where it was just like, damn.
No, the rest of the season goes hard.
Okay.
Like, yeah, like it's the best season of USA there's ever been by like a mile. Like the way
that
shit
is what
went
I
down.
heard.
And then the amount of just like shit talking between Islanders post show and like already like leaked fucking videos and shit from people's pasts. Like,
oh God.
Like you remember Kendall?
Yes.
And then Rob, they both had like sex tapes leaked. Like, and it's like wild shit. Like Kendall's getting like pegged. Like it's fucking wild shit.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me about
I know.
Kendall.
Yeah. So like that happened, and then fucking people were telling Kaylor like, please for the love of God watch the Casa Amor episodes when Aaron is not like right next to you, and then make a decision. And then like people kept pushing her to do it. She did it, and she was like, yeah, think we're done. It was like, oh shit, okay, we told you. But the reunion, there was only a couple people that didn't actually like go, apparently, and there's a lot of them. Like the UK is the only one that usually did reunions.
Okay.
This is like the first time the USA's actually ever done one.
Right.
But on the UK ones, like people would not show up. Like so a lot of people would just be like, I don't care.
I got you.
This one, there's like 2 people that aren't, and like everybody else who was on the show at any point is there, which is, it's going to be chaos. They're literally, I know it's chaos because they're like, oh, it's too much for one reunion episode. They're doing 2.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's going to be a shit show. So I'm like, oh boy. But
that just like, Deanna got into Real Housewives a while back, and so like that's the reality show we watch.
Okay.
And the mainly the only one that I actually enjoy because I think it's hilarious is Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Because it's Jersey.
Well, A, because it's Jersey. B, because out of the other ones we've watched, Jersey to me is like they actually have some issues of where like how they grew up and stuff that I can relate to. Whereas like the Orange counties and like the Beverly Hills and stuff, like their issues are like, oh my God, I can't afford a 7th Porsche. Like,
and in the back of your mind, you're like, yes, you can.
Exactly.
Stop lying. Like, exactly. Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I feel like Atlanta would probably be entertaining as shit too, to be honest.
That's what I've heard. I've heard Atlanta's great.
Atlanta culture is strong enough that the show would be like carried. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Like
yeah. I will also want to watch Potomac, selfishly because there's, if you remember Eddie Jordan, the old head coach of the Sixers.
Yeah.
He's one of the husbands in Real
No
Housewives of Potomac.
No shot.
And
where does he live? Where does he live? Like Maryland and slash
I
like
think
Virginia-ish? Like
so. I think Potomac is for like the DMV area. So
okay,
he's
that would
somewhere
make
in there.
sense.
And there was one other person, I want to say it was one of my favorite college basketball players of all time, Juan Dixon. I think it was him that's also either like a boyfriend or a husband or something to do with the show. So like
Okay.
this one has people I know from outside. I mean, so does some of the
Yeah.
others. But like I think it's Orange County or Beverly Hills or something where fucking Tiki Barber's in it.
Oh, fuck Tiki.
His what?
I would watch
his
that
wife
just
is
to.
one of them.
I would love to watch that just to see if he could shit on at any point because I would love to see that.
Oh yeah, me too.
It was yeah, what a tool. But
yeah, they do a bunch of reunions. New Jersey, they're not doing one because New Jersey has gotten to a point where they hate each other so much that they're actually wiping the entire cast and bringing in a whole new one.
Holy shit! Okay.
Yeah, like and two of them
I-
are like sister-in-laws, and they like want to kill each other.
Excellent. I might need to watch some of this shit.
Yeah.
It's like
it's definitely entertaining.
Yeah, because that's like reality. No one's watching reality TV to actually like gain anything other than be entertained. It's just mindless. Like that's the whole point.
Exactly. That's when you just want to shut your brain off and not.
Well, that's what I mean. I just need more things to have on this screen while I'm gaming on this one.
Right.
Like that's what it is. That's what it is to me. Like
yeah.
That's what that's what I've watched like every season of Love Island, like all of them now, like UK, Australia, whatever. So I'll just put on like a season I like and just have it on in the background because I don't even need to see it. Like I'll just hear and know what's happening. Like it's just literally mindless shit. But yeah. There's so many now too though. I remember like being on Hulu and I just saw like every fucking city. I'm like, Jesus Christ. They never stopped.
Of Real Housewives?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Literally everywhere. Like
we tried to watch, it was like fucking Abu Dhabi or some shit like that. And they like Beverly Hills issues being like, oh, I can't afford my 7th Porsche. These people are like trillionaires. Like their problems are so far gone between the average person and them that I think it only lasted one season because literally everyone was like, I don't care about any of you.
Yeah. But that's the biggest thing for any of these shows is like the one thing the producers need is for at least a couple of the people to actually like garner some sympathy.
Yeah.
Somehow. Like they have to be they actually have to seem human still, not just like psychos. Because that's what Love Island is. That's why they go so in depth, like trying to give them intros and everything so you can relate to these people and then you dislike these people. That's what keeps you in. And I totally assumed that that's what Real Housewives would be because obviously you'll have some of the like families, like the couples or whatever, like that you can get behind. And then some that you literally would love to see just like hit by a train.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what all reality TV is. So
the main star girl, Teresa from Real Housewives of New Jersey, was like in the very, very beginning, you kind of felt bad for her because like other people were being assholes to her and blah, blah, blah. And as the show progressed up until now, she's one of the only people, like one of the only original Real Housewives of New Jersey that are still on the show. And this show started in like fucking 2010 or some shit.
Jesus.
Yeah, it has a ridiculous amount of seasons.
Good.
But
it's bingeable as hell. Love it.
Yeah. Like, so I think the OGs are like that, Real Housewives of New York and Orange County. I think Orange County and New York, I think, have 20 plus seasons. Yeah, they're ridiculous. But the girl Teresa is now at a point where like everyone hates her. She's like so stupid that you're like, dude, open your fucking eyes. Like her husband is a major creep that like had all sorts of weird past things that got brought out to light and everything. And
we actually got a question.
Oh God, did we?
Yeah, it just popped up.
Oh, Richard says need an RB2 standard league: Ramondre, Swift, or Pollard. Need an RB2 in a standard league.
This is
I wouldn't really
tough.
trust Ramondre, to be honest with you.
See, I feel like, because this is a standard, is that insinuating non PPR?
Correct. It's just like not even half PPR. There's nothing. Yeah.
So all right. So pure running wise, literally just running. I actually think DeAndre Swift might be a good call, but
I feel like Swift is going to get the most work out of these three running backs, because Pollard has Tajay Spears now that he's on Tennessee.
Yeah.
And they really like Spears for good reason. Spears is he's shown to be a pretty good back. And Ramondre, while he has had some very good seasons, I just don't trust the Patriots offense as a whole. Drake May has been the lone rookie quarterback that has looked kind of like so far.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's just like their wide receivers are a ginormous question mark. You have an entirely new head coach and an entirely new system. And they also brought in Antonio Gibson for like passing down plays and things like that. They also have Jermichael Hasty as a third string, and Hasty didn't do that bad in like backup role in Jacksonville when ETN was either hurt or just like when he spelled ETN. So yeah, I kind of lean towards Swift, to be honest.
I think the reason I think Swift is actually easily the best choice is the offense of Chicago should be so much more balanced now. Like wide receiver wise, it's really hard to actually pick a matchup if you're a defensive coordinator going against them now. It's like you're either choosing DJ Moore, you're either choosing Keenan Allen, or you're choosing Rome Odunze. Like they have some weapons, and Caleb Williams has looked solid. So if they're going to balance the offense, Swift is going to get a lot of touches, and he can catch. Obviously, that's not like a huge thing. You'll get receiving yards, I guess, but you won't get the reception count. But like, I think that's a pretty easy one, because apparently in camp even in preseason, Drake May's looked lost as hell.
Yeah,
and probably won't even be starting anyway. And
then like
Tennessee, like Pollard could get a lot, but I will never call him a power guy because he's not. He's too little. He is a PPR guy, and if you're in a standard league, I think you just avoid that. So I would take.
And to be honest, with Pollard, it kind of like don't get me wrong, he is a very good running back, but when he finally took the reins as the number one guy, he wasn't very efficient.
Exactly.
And like when he was a backup and he was making all that noise of like becoming the guy, a lot of it was in the receiving game. Like he had in his year where he was actually selected to the Pro Bowl when he was still a backup, he only started in 4 of those games. He put up 1,007 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, with 371 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. And then he became the guy, had 3 fewer rushing touchdowns, 2 fewer yards on like almost 60 more attempts, and then didn't even have a receiving touchdown at all. So yeah, I kind of lean towards Swift, especially like the thing is all 3 of these guys have either rookie quarterbacks or second year quarterbacks. And so there's going to be like groundwork because a lot of the times with rookie quarterbacks, you're going to lean on the run a little bit more so that they don't have to take over a game with their arm. But if you're saying like who's going to have the easier time because the offense is going to be a little bit better, I would lean more towards Chicago.
And the other, the major thing for me as well is O-line rankings.
Yeah.
Like the Bears, they're still like average, but it's middle of the league. So there's so many worse than them. And like the Patriots on most places are ranked like 30th. So like it's a mess. You have new coaching staff, like top to bottom, new quarterbacks, like just new everything. It's just not worth the risk there. And then like Swift is just he's more established as a runner, in my opinion. Like that's what if I think of DeAndre Swift, I am imagining him being handed the ball and running rather than like a guy like Pollard, who yes, he can do that, and he has done that, obviously. Like he stole Zeke's job when that happened. But his efficiency has gone down. And then with Tennessee, I think it's just gonna be kind of awkward. Like you lose Derrick Henry and you replace him with a guy who's like 6 inches shorter and 50 something pounds lighter, if not more than that. Like it's just, and I think Spears is really talented too. So this should be like they could actually end up having a battle for who's going to be number 1 by midseason. But
yeah, and they've been really trying to give Spears more and more like responsibility.
Yeah. And he's he's 23 years old. This is his sophomore NFL season. Like he's got fresh legs. He's like, and obviously with Henry leaving, there's that part of him that's like, okay, at least for a time, even if we sign somebody, I have that chance to kind of show that I should be valued in that way.
Right.
So I think he's going to play with an edge. And obviously that team needs somebody to play with an edge because they don't know what they're doing at QB really still. Like it's just kind of a mess.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I would probably lean towards Swift. I mean, I did this quick little comparison, and
I'm gonna grab a beverage.
All right.
Ooh.
And I mean they are very similar.
Okay, of the 3 you mentioned, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., and Josh Palmer, I'm going to say Brian Thomas Jr. over them every time at the moment. I think Keon Coleman needs to develop a lot more, and Curtis Samuel's going to get a lion's share of targets that he would get at the moment. And Josh Palmer, it's going to be interesting. That team, the Chargers need somebody to step up alongside of Ladd McConkey, because I think Ladd McConkey's hands, even as a rookie, are actually like super pure. But see,
I don't like Josh there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think of those 3, the obvious one is Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, I agree. I've drafted Brian Thomas Jr. in a few rookie drafts in dynasty leagues. I like him a lot. He obviously doesn't have the best quarterback of the 3. However, he does have the other than Keon Coleman, I think he has one of the best paths to more targets, more receptions. Keon Coleman obviously is up there because the Bills decided to just get rid of every wide receiver they have. And there's not really much else to say about that. But I like Keon Coleman. I think he's going to be solid.
Yeah.
But I just have more faith in Brian Thomas Jr., to be honest.
I just think the roles of the receivers in Jacksonville are more clear.
True.
Like the 1, 2, 3 they have, like it's Gabe Davis. Obviously, ironically, him leaving Buffalo is the reason they ended up even taking a guy like Keon Coleman when they did.
Right.
But I think, we need to see a lot more from Trevor Lawrence, obviously, but I think that situation, it's just his opportunities are going to be so much greater coming into the league. And then Josh Palmer is just like run. If he's your only option, skip the pick and just leave an empty roster spot. Like, just get out of there.
Yeah, I would go either running back or tight end.
If
If I'm down to Josh Palmer, I just do not have any faith in him at all.
Yeah,
but again,
I'm looking at his whole season last year, even with injuries to their top guys that before they left, he only had 61 targets, 38 catches for under 600 yards. I would not be at all surprised if Brian Thomas Jr. exceeds 900, even as a rookie. I think that's like really easy. I don't want to say easy, but I think he will.
Yeah.
So,
and
I'll be right back.
Yep. And I would also just say with Buffalo's offense, you're going to have a lot of, like, Cook will be getting the ball a lot. You got Josh Allen running the ball a lot. Kincaid is going to get plenty of work. So it is going to be interesting to see the role that Keon Coleman plays. And obviously with the rookie wide receivers in Coleman and Thomas, you're just going to have a lot more volatility, especially to begin the season. So until they figure it out. But yeah, I would definitely rank them: Brian Thomas, Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer. And unless it's like the end of the draft, I wouldn't even go for Josh Palmer. And if it's like a last round pick, sure, you could throw a flyer out there because, you could drop him at any time. But yeah, I wouldn't really trust Josh Palmer out of that. So hopefully that helps you there. So Tom will be back here. Richard said, "Thanks, guys. No problem, man. Definitely always here to help. We appreciate you watching, appreciate you asking some questions in the chat." And we are going to just jump over here because we've already went pretty long on everything else. I think we're just going to jump over here to some of our NFL predictions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up last year's NFL standings, and then we're going to talk about what we predict this year. So let me bring that up. Nobody gives a fuck about preseason standings.
Exactly.
That's the first thing that came up on ESPN. I was like, what?
I know. I had it open. And it was just like sitting there. I'm like, somebody's 0-2. Impressive.
Yeah. All right. So let's just start with the AFC since it's the top here. Can I zoom in? Thank you. Finally.
Aliens.
So for those that might be listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your audio podcasts, last year, Buffalo finished first in the AFC East. The AFC East finished Buffalo, Miami, the Jets, and then the Patriots. Buffalo and Miami were both 11-6. Obviously, New York had much higher hopes with Aaron Rodgers coming in and some of the revamped offense, and then Rodgers went down in literally 30 seconds and was out for the season. So I'm just going to throw my prediction out there early for this one. I'm saying Miami finishes in first in the division. Miami retained a lot of their offense, and I think they're going to be the number one team.
Can you please?
Buffalo, I think, will be number 2. That Buffalo, even though they've lost a lot of wide receivers, they're still a very good team. So I think that they're going to be number 2, and that's only because I don't trust the Jets really at all. So I kind of see the Jets and Patriots finishing the same way, but Miami finishing first and Buffalo finishing second.
So I'm looking at their schedules kind of one at a time here. Given what I think is going to be a huge hole, Buffalo's ability to score is 100% going to be less. Like, it's just that there's way less explosive. I don't think we can argue that. And their schedule's tough. Like, they're on the road against Miami in their week 2 on 4 days rest. That should be a loss.
Right.
They're on the road at Baltimore. They're on the road at Houston. Like they host Kansas City, but Kansas City, I mean, you know what I mean? Like there's these teams that I just kind of expect to beat Buffalo this year. Like I could see them finishing 10-7. I could see them finishing 9-8 because it's just going to be really, I think it's going to be way harder than people are actually being honest about their offense. Like I know Josh Allen's Josh Allen, but if he has nobody really standing out to throw to, I don't know how they make that happen. So,
Right.
and then I look at Miami and I'm like, okay, there's a lot more potential here. And then on top of that, you have a schedule that in a lot of ways is, I'm not going to say like easy, but easier.
Right.
In a sense. So like first 5 weeks, the toughest opponent's Buffalo, but they have that at home against the Buffalo team on short rest. So like that helps them. But it's Jacksonville, Seattle, Tennessee, New England. And then you go into a bye week. They have an early bye. And you come out of that with Indy and Arizona. And I know Indy, we don't know what they're going to be yet, but we'll see. I think Miami, barring injury, and they had a lot last year, to be fair. Like barring injury, they could probably win this division this year.
Right.
I agree completely with the last two things you said. I have zero faith in the Jets at all. Even if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, I just think at this point, the dude is so unfocused on football. Like, it's almost laughable.
Like, I love their defense, but
exactly. But they're like Cleveland for me. Like it literally, I look at Cleveland and I'm like, if these dudes had a quarterback, they would be unfucking stoppable. Period.
Right.
Their defense is literally the reason they had 11 wins last year. It's just like, but they're like the Jets are kind of the same thing. Like their coach's defensive focus, their defense does show up a lot, and their offense does not. So
yeah.
And they have to, oh my God, the Jets have to start this. They start the season at San Francisco in prime time. Like,
yeah, not the greatest start. But however, they do then play Tennessee, New England, Denver, Minnesota, which are four very winnable games.
Watch Bo Nix absolutely torch them.
He definitely could.
Just to literally shake up everything. Oh my God. Yeah, so I think AFC East is going to go Dolphins, Bills, Jets, Patriots. In agreement with you. I think that's 100%
cool.
What we should be thinking right now.
Before we get to AFC North, Richard did ask here. I responded in the chat, but he asked, third pick in the draft. Every mock draft has top three as CMC, CD, and Tyreek. Do you agree? So I responded in the chat that I'm a little shaky about CD. It's not because I'm a Cowboys hater, even though I do hate the Cowboys. I thought CD played very well last year. I think he's a very good wide receiver. I honestly just never know like what exactly is going on in Dallas. Dallas has a propensity to either not show up in the beginning of the year or not show up in the end of the year. And then like usually they do well in between. But yeah, I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't feel confident spending a top 3 pick on CD Lamb. There's a lot of people out there that actually have him ranked number 1, which that I definitely don't agree with. I still have Christian McCaffrey number 1. And I can see the argument for Tyreek number 1, especially after the year that Tyreek just had last year. CD, yeah. I mean, in PPR and half PPR, definitely.
But in standard, I don't.
Standard, like, I mean, he still gets plenty of work. That like,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But Christian McCaffrey to me will always be number 1 as long as he's healthy, because he has an insane rushing ability and pass catching ability. So he's going to get you both. Even if it's standard, he's going to score touchdowns doing both. Tyreek Hill is like what makes Miami's entire offense.
Yeah.
And CD, don't get me wrong, is also a large part of Dallas's entire offense, but we have no idea what their run game is even going to look like.
Their
We
O
also,
line got worse. Their
yeah,
run game is sus. So it's like you're not gonna. And I'll get hate for this probably because there's still all these people that believe Dak is the second coming. You cannot just win football games throwing the ball. You that cannot be the only thing you have, and especially with
right.
less protection for Dak now. He is not the best guy under pressure. I don't care. Like we've seen that time and time again in the playoffs, especially. CD is special. I will give him that credit. I think he could be amazing anywhere. In a standard league, I feel like, it sucks though with QB injuries and QBs like not on teams anymore. Like Justin Jefferson is such a question mark now because it's going to be Sam Darnold.
Exactly.
Like
If he had a
that's
quarterback,
like
I would have.
horrifying.
If he had a quarterback, I would definitely put Jefferson over CD.
Like if you want to just avoid the wide receiver dilemma, like okay, I'll say in a standard league, if you want to just avoid the wide receiver problem, Brees Hall and Bijan are also very highly ranked just overall in fantasy this year going into the season. Especially I think Bijan, just because they had like that staff at this point has to realize like, yeah, he is as special as everybody thought before we drafted him. And Atlanta's got to use him. Like you got Kirk Cousins now. You want to make sure your offense is as scary as it can be. Bijan's going to be getting work, and I feel bad for Tyler. How do you say his last name? Is it Algier or is yeah? So like, I feel bad for him in a way. He'll still have a really good role there because they got rid of Cordero, but like that's Bijan might be a safe bet, and then like take one of the more like depth wideouts because if you're pick 3, you probably pick again at what like 17. If it goes around
for a 10-team league, yeah.
So like you would be in with a shot of guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Evans, Ayuk, Debo, like those guys should all be floating and maybe somebody in the earlier ranks gets skipped. So like you're not going to miss out on a super. It's 12. Okay, so you'll pick again at 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think risk taking a running back early because there are some good ones, and then you will get a receiver on that second pick that you will definitely still be very satisfied with. Like if it was PPR, I'd say take CD without a question because he's going to get 100 plus catches this year, I think. But
yeah,
because it isn't, I think it's a little bit. You have to kind of strategize a little differently.
In my eyes, in a standard league, you definitely have to prioritize running backs because usually it's more points per rushing yard than it is points per receiving yard. And if you're not doing a point per reception, then like that neutralizes wide receivers a lot. So standard leagues, you usually want to target running backs first and then wide receivers. And you can definitely make the argument for Bijan and Brees Hall because Brees Hall, especially his later half of the year, was outstanding. I had him on a couple different teams, and I mean, I loved the type of production he had in the second half of last season. And the best case scenario is somebody takes CD before you, and you get either CMC or Tyreek. That's by far the best case scenario to me.
Like if one of the two ahead, if the two ahead of you take Tyreek and CMC, then you're kind of like, all right, let me dig for a running back.
Yeah.
If one of them takes CD, Tyreek Hill is always a safe bet because he's going to have like close to 2,000 yards if he's not hurt because he's just that guy. But yeah, I think in standard you have to go running back, and you're picking early enough that you'll get a like true like top 3 running back. So I think definitely go for that. Receivers, there's just more depth in the league anyway. Like, you even just think about an offense on a field. There's probably 3 wideouts. There's only 1 running back. You got to make sure that the ones you have are definitely better than everybody else's, especially in standard too, because you just want yardage. So,
And
a guy like Bijan or a guy like Breece Hall, that's all they do.
If you're picking 21, somebody down there, I mean, Devontae Adams is down there a lot. Obviously, he comes with risk because, you don't like Gardner Minshew was named the starter for now, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen with that. Drake London is usually around there. Chris Olave could fall. Mike Evans, Debo. And then there's also, if you want to go running back, because you'll pick again really early in the 3rd round, usually like Pacheco, Kyron Williams, even Devon Achane, like those guys could fall down there too. So you could really go running back in a standard league and come out with a team that you're happy with. So there's also that. Richard says salute. Hey, no problem, man. Always here to help. So AFC North. This one is difficult.
This is the most annoying division in history to predict right now.
It always.
I hate it.
Obviously, the fan in me wants to say Ravens are finishing first again. However, it does come with a caveat because there are people that the Ravens lost. And most notably is the defensive coordinator. McDonald is now over in Seattle as the head coach. And I mean, the defense looked fucking amazing under him. Linebacker is going to be different. I like Trenton Simpson because, I mean, Patrick Queen moved to Pittsburgh. But obviously, they also brought in Derrick Henry, which is not a nobody. But the wide receiver group is still and has always been and will always fucking be a question mark. Zay Flowers is great. After Zay Flowers, I don't fucking know. So Cleveland, their defense is great. It pains me to say that, but their defense is great. But the biggest wild card to me is the Bengals, because last year the Bengals were only that bad because they dealt with so many injuries. Most notably Joe Burrow with his calf, but also T. Higgins. And their offensive line was banged up. The defense started suffering some injuries. So the Bengals have the biggest wild card to me because we also watched them go to the fucking Super Bowl. Western AFC championship game. Starting to talk about basketball playoffs. So I'm still going to say the Ravens win the division. And I feel like my in-laws are going to kill me. But I'm saying the Bengals finish second, the Browns third, and the Steelers fourth.
All right. So this one's all right. Mine's different from yours this time around, and this is a tough one for me to swallow because I think Pittsburgh's going to probably finish last. I think Cincy's going to finish third.
Okay.
I think Cleveland is actually going to be the team that competes the closest with the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even thinking about this too because it's crazy. So they bolstered the receiving core. Right. Nick Chubb will be back at some point because his rehab's going pretty well, and when healthy, he is still the best, in my opinion, the best running back on planet Earth. He is uniquely special. If they even remotely figure out quarterback, and here's what's crazy too, because I'm just looking at the points for, right? So obviously the Ravens a mile ahead, but that 396 for Cleveland would have been number 1 in the AFC South and number 1 in the AFC West. Like, they outscored the Chiefs, they outscored the Texans, they outscored the Jags. Like, there's a handful of teams that were good that on that side of it, and then like it's just here. Let me see. I'm going to bring up their depth chart because I want to see exactly what we're working with here because I know. Okay, so a lot of guys on the physically unable to perform list right now. Let's see. Okay. Okay,
Oh yeah,
fair. All
I
right.
didn't realize they had that many people on the pup list.
Yes. So this this may adjust my thoughts here because you're missing your starting left and right tackles and your running back at the moment. I like the receiving core. I think Jerry Jeudy,
And
they
your
got him.
returner.
They got him for free. So
I forgot they got Naeem Hines.
yeah, same. He's all the way over here hidden.
Yeah,
That's
in
like
the
what the
NFI
hell?
list.
It's gonna be very. This team is so damn intriguing to me because I'm looking at like Greg Newsome seconds on the pup list too, or the NFI. Ugh. If these guys like get activated, and I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know like how long they're gonna be out, but
Right.
um,
And they're also missing a defensive tackle.
yeah, it's just like and I
Rodney
feel bad.
McLeod is on the Browns?
Yep, he was there last year too, I think.
Oh, I completely forgot about that.
And before that, I think it was the Colts, or maybe he
Okay.
signed this year. It might have been this year. No, he signed last year, and then they just signed him again on a 1-year deal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's this team. This is what I mean with this division, though. Like, I can't sit here and be like sure because I look at Cincinnati and I'm like, okay, you have some like your QB's coming off another serious injury again. Chris Evans now is hurt, so that's fucking shocked. Because he was a big part of like that receiving game out of
Right.
the backfield. I like Zach Moss. I like Chase. I totally forgot he's his brother. Jesus Christ. Chase Brown is the brother of Sidney Brown, who is a
Oh,
safety for the Eagles.
I forgot about that too.
And you would see it immediately if you click his damn picture because they look exactly the same. Holy crap.
Yeah, they do.
Like literally could be twins and maybe they are and I don't know what the fuck happened, but okay, hold on. Sidebar, research being conducted. Sydney and Chase Brown. I need to know because my brains they are literally twins. Okay, at least my eyes are not lying to me. Cool. Like receiving wise, I think the Bengals will end up with the trio of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Jermaine Burton. That's a really fucking good trio for anybody who's still gonna be confused about what good trios are like. That's top 3, clearly. It's a little
What's
top
going on
heavy,
with
but
Amarius Mims, though, by the way?
let me go ahead and research part 2. Marius Mims.
Because it says he's injured, but I don't remember reading about that.
I don't think he is hurt. Hold up.
At least that's what it says on the depth chart.
Yeah. I don't know what's up with this.
Maybe it's just out of date. I don't know. Oh no.
Tension.
8 days ago, out for a week
injury.
with pec injury.
At least it's weeks.
True.
It's not months.
Oh yeah, it says
just says,
several weeks.
Well, okay, so all right, he will miss the final 2 preseason games, and his status for the opener remains uncertain.
Because yeah, that's obviously big. I mean, that's your first
surgery
draft pick right there.
No surgery, so there's going to be no surgery. So I'm not even going to call that serious. It's probably like a strain, and they just need to let it like heal.
Right.
But yeah, I think, and even if he's out, you plop Trent Brown in.
True.
You have a Brown on both sides. Obviously, they brought in a lot of O-line help. I mean, literally 3 of their 5 starters were free agent signings, and then obviously with Mims, you drafted a guy too. Like it is a brand new offensive line,
as they needed.
Yeah, completely. Like it was desperate. Like they even to the point where the backup right guard is also a free agent signing, and then Trent Brown was also a free agent signing, and he's second on the depth chart at right tackle. Like they are loaded up. So, yeah, I think. The Bengals, it's the same. Like we rewind just a few years and we saw them lose a very close Super Bowl. Like they have that still. Like the talent is completely there. And if Joe Burrow can actually get off to a fucking good start to a season for once, they could actually win the damn division.
You mean the Cincinnati Eminem?
Yes, dude. Oh my god, he is fully shadied out. It's ridiculous. But on the same vein too, like I look at Pittsburgh, their defense, like that's what this division is like freaky offense on some teams and then freaky defense on some other ones. Like it's so hard to predict for that reason because you don't know what is going to be impactful game to game.
I know. And then,
but
like with Pittsburgh, I want to put them higher because they're just notoriously in the playoffs. But I'm like, and I know their defense is going to be good, but their offense is completely revamped. And
that's what we don't know. Like
exactly.
But the thing to go off a point you've made is Matt Canada's gone.
Right.
They looked better once he was gone. Let's see what they look like because I'm still going to stand on this. I think Fields is going to win this fucking job. I think
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think Wilson is washed. I think it is just it's just obvious now.
My thing is, and I know it's preseason, they've looked terrible on offense.
I know.
like every quarterback they've put in there has looked terrible.
But what I wish I could see, and I wish there was a way to see this without having to watch the entire fucking game, is when Fields was in, who was his O-line? And what receivers were out there? And like all of that. Like
that's true.
Was he with any of the players he would be playing with if he wins the starting job?
Right.
Because even in like, let me look at box scores here because I'm curious. So in the game against Houston, he was 5 for 6 for 67 yards, 11.2 average per throw. That is not bad at all. I have nothing negative to say at all about that because he obviously was not in there for the lion's share of that game. It was Kyle Allen who was in for most of that game. And then against Buffalo, which was the most boring game of the preseason by a mile, it finished 9-3. Fields was 11 for 17 for 92 yards, no turnovers, only got sacked once. And he also ran for 42. So I'm like, I feel like he might offer more to them because he
probably does.
And he fucking wants it. Like the whole Chicago thing went like shit. Everybody's just judging him, hating on him. You're a bust, you're this, you're that. Like I would love to see him win that job over a guy who's been in the league for this damn long.
Right.
Because it's not like Pittsburgh's spending money on Wilson. Like it's $3 million. They don't give a shit. They can just they can do what they want at this point. So, but I think honestly, the Bengals are the wild card. Kind of like they're either going to be what they were 3 years ago and 2 years ago, I guess, making conference championship runs. But I think the Ravens are the best team. I think they are the best team in that division. I think it's pretty clear too. I mean,
on paper, I definitely agree.
But that's the biggest point. That's the key word we have to just use for this division. It's on paper. I think the Ravens are the best. Who finishes second? I mean, literally, who knows? Because we got to just see some football. But
like that next one I think from last year is insane.
Yeah, I think the next division's a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, honestly, this next division, so AFC South. By the way, I don't have that much time left, so I'm thinking we finish AFC and then we do NFC next episode.
That works.
All right. So AFC South, I see not in terms of the standings, but like the division standings, but I see the Texans being the only playoff team again. However, so with that being said, I think the Texans finish first. I think they're going to finish first by a wider margin than they finished last year.
I think their floor is 12-5.
Yeah.
I think their ceiling's like 15. Like they're so loaded, it's a joke.
Yeah. I like the defense. I love the offense. This team, the sky's the limit with the Texans, especially they're going to go as far as CJ Stroud takes them. Like that's just the bottom line.
in the CJ Stroud thing, it's the same exact coaching staff too. So they've built for a year and they built for an offseason. Like sky's the limit for them, like you said.
Exactly. And then I see the Colts finishing second. I like what the Colts have put together. Jonathan Taylor is now healthy to start the season. It's pretty easy to forget that last year Jonathan Taylor wasn't even ready to play until I think it was like week 5 or 6 or something. Zach Moss played very well, don't get me wrong, but he's not Jonathan Taylor. And then Anthony Richardson comes back. We only saw 2 games of him. So that can be a wild card. If he gets hurt again, God knows what's going to happen to the Colts, because now Gardner Minshew's not there either. But I really like them a lot. They got AD Mitchell now for their receiving group to go along with Michael Pittman. So I like the Colts a lot in this. So I would put them at second. Jacksonville is just, to me, they just still look mediocre. They lost Calvin Ridley, which, if I'm being honest, they didn't use Calvin Ridley anywhere close to how they should have. Agreed. Calvin Ridley, and also granted, Calvin Ridley didn't play for a few years. So he was going to be rusty no matter what. But we're talking about a Calvin Ridley that you could feed the ball to any given moment and he would make something happen. And they just game planned themselves out of it. They game planned him off the field and he's on your team.
Yeah.
And so now you replace him, Zay Jones left. So it's Christian Kirk. We talked about Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is another one where he had games last year where he had 100 plus yards and a couple touchdowns. And then he also had games where he had 1 target. And that's with Josh Allen.
But see, that I blame that more on Josh Allen.
Oh, I agree. It was definitely the system there.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Jacksonville, and I'm like, that trio of receivers, they all each do something different. So it should work better as long as the play, as long as the play design is actually good and competent. They can probably turn that into something pretty nice.
Right.
The Colts, I'm curious. I still think Jacksonville's going to finish second. I think Tennessee is going to finish dead last because their QB situation is just one of the worst in the league.
Yeah. I mean, I like Levis, but I don't think he's anywhere close to these other guys that are there. I mean, they're the ones that brought in Calvin Ridley. And so I do like the fact that you have Calvin Ridley and
Nuke.
Yeah. And then on top of that, they bring in Tony Pollard, who, I'm not going to say he's washed, but he's not as good as he could be. They did bring in JC Latham to help with their offensive line. Okonkwo's a solid tight end.
They signed Tyler Boyd too. I mean, that's another one to round out a very veteran, experienced receiving core.
Exactly. And if Treylon Burks finally wakes the fuck up,
I know. I mean, he's in a coma from some of the fucking hits he took, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Defensively, signed Kenneth Murray, signed Arden Key, signed Chidobe Awuzie, traded for L'Jarius Sneed. Defense could be...
The defense could be very nice. They got Quandre Diggs in there.
I know. Their defense could be... Sebastian Joseph Day from the Niners. They have a defense. They should have a defense. But then they have a new coaching staff. That's maybe we'll see how defensive minded they are, because obviously, this team is another one of those big question marks. They have talent on paper, but then you can have all the receivers you want. And truth be told, I actually think the favorite to win the starting job right now might be Mason Rudolph, based on camp and preseason. So that's another one of those you kind of have to sit back and be like, let's see what he can do with this shit. But
right.
I think if we had to just make a prediction, they should be the bottom of that division.
You and I both agree with the Texans and the Titans. It's
Yeah,
the
it's just
Jaguars
those
and the
middle
Colts
two.
that will, yeah.
Because you and we literally don't know what Anthony Richardson is yet. Like we
Exactly.
genuinely have no fucking clue. Like I just looked up his stats from last year from those few games that he did play,
Right.
and there's a couple that I'm like, that's not a good game, my guy. I mean, like
No, that's true.
the game against Houston, week 2, 10 passes, 6 completions, 56 yards. Probably missed some time in that game, clearly. Um, and then he comes back the next week. It goes 11 of 25 against the Rams, and you lose in
Yeah.
overtime. And then the Tennessee game, obviously, on that hit by the end zone, I think is what fucked him. But
Right.
it's like we need to see him actually be consistent in the pocket and out of the pocket. Like you can't have like one or the other now, like the way this league is. So that's why I'm just kind of sticking with the standings that it was last year, because I think Jacksonville improved enough. They need to just get Trevor Lawrence there, whatever it takes. Yeah.
I just realized the Colts signed Joe Flacco as a backup.
Yep.
So I'm definitely going Colts in second.
Okay.
Because if Anthony Richardson does get hurt, I like Joe Flacco more than Gardner Minshew.
Especially how he played at the end of last season. The playoff game, he looked awful, but
yeah, but he saved Cleveland's season.
Oh, completely. Okay, this next one, this next one's fun because I have no. Man, the Raiders are the one team that will fuck this whole thing up, I think.
True. Before we jump in that, I saw you answered in the chat, but Richard also asked expectations for Pittman this year, Pittman or Devontae Smith flex. I also, like you said in the chat, would pick Devontae Smith, mainly because I love Jalen Hurts way more than the question mark of Anthony Richardson. Devontae Smith is going to get plenty, even though he's the number 2 receiver versus Pittman being the number 1 de facto in Indianapolis. Devontae is going to get plenty of opportunities, and I mean he's growing in this offense. They also have a new offense which should be better. So
it should be a lot better.
Like the creativity is going to be different. They're going to get Devontae open. AJ Brown is going to also help. Like you can't double Devontae because there's AJ Brown on the other side. Pittman's going to get a lot of double teams, like a lot, because obviously. And Josh Downs is hurt right now. I don't think it's anything super major, but something to look for. And after Josh Downs, like Josh Downs to me is definitely their second best receiver. And then you got Alec Pierce and AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell should be solid. Alec Pierce is solid, but I don't see them right now as like great number 2 receivers. So Pittman's going to get hounded. He should still have a solid year, don't get me wrong, but I would pick Devontae Smith over Michael Pittman.
And I had it on my here we go. So apparently Jalen Hurts has reportedly gone 273 consecutive throws in camp without throwing an interception.
Damn.
273, dude. So that's another thing too. I'm like, okay, I know it's camp, but you're running the new plays in the offense. You're running the new scheme this whole time, right?
Yeah.
273 is an insane number. That's a nuts number.
Oh yeah.
So I'm looking at that going like, okay, he must be. And I've seen some of the video. He was mic'd up for one of the days too. And I was like, Jalen Hurts mic'd up? What is this? And they just look like they're vibing out there. So yeah, I think Smith is just, the environment's better. The certainty of like reliability of the quarterback's better. So yeah, go Smith all 100%.
Agree. But as you said, with the AFC West, the Raiders.
Fucking Raiders. The way they finished last year, the energy they were playing with, and the fact that Max Crosby is actually nuts. Like
I'm convinced he is literally psycho.
Yeah. Their defense is going to be better. I think Gardner Minshew is 100% an upgrade at QB for them. And I know like they probably would have really loved to get a guy in this draft. Like Bo Nix or McCarthy was probably who would have been floating. And even Penix, if the Atlanta hadn't taken him, they might have considered it. But
Yeah.
I just like I can't make a prediction with certainty. I just know they're going to be better. So I don't actually want to move them from second. Because the Chargers, like, they lost their whole offense minus Herbert. Like, the whole thing. But now their O-line's better. So it's weird. Like, they're tough to predict. They have a couple receivers with hands that don't catch things, obviously. Right. We've already been over that with Josh Palmer. So, but then I look at the Broncos and I'm like, I don't know what to think of you either. Because I know Bo Nix in preseason so far has looked real damn good. And I know it's preseason, but like he's jumping right in. He's played a lot of football on big stages already at two schools and conferences that get a lot of eyes. So it's like he's not going to get gun shy as a rookie. He's going to go out there and play.
Right.
Cortland Sutton is a damn good receiver. Like it's not the worst situation in the world, but we got to see. So like, I could see the Broncos and the Chargers flip-flopping. I could see that.
Right.
But I think 1-2 Chiefs Raiders actually feels fine to me, especially looking at like the Raiders' home record was the best home record in that division, actually.
Right.
So like they can win some games, and I think they will. I don't think the Chiefs will lose the division. I think they could though. But it's that this is another coin flip for me because it's just I have to see them play. I think the Raiders definitely. I think 10-7 for the Raiders this year. Actually, I think they're going to get a winning record, and then the Chiefs it could win the division by 1 or 2 games. But the Broncos, I think they'll float around what that record is right there at 8-9. Maybe one game better, maybe one game worse. The Chargers, I literally can't even give you a prediction because it's like it's Harbaugh's first year back in the NFL in a fucking decade.
Yeah.
Like it's just there's so much turnover. Defensively, they have a lot of guys, which it's good that they have that because correct me if I'm wrong. This Harbaugh is a more defensive guy, or am I wrong on that?
John Harbaugh was the special teams coach.
Okay, because I just look at like what players were obviously JJ McCarthy coming out in the first round he's a QB, so that happens. But like defensively, I feel like a lot of players under him got drafted. So
yeah, he's a big defense and ground game guy because like Blake Corum and stuff too. Like,
okay,
obviously he brought in Greg Roman, who is known for the ground game, and then literally brought in both Ravens ex running backs that played under Greg Roman. So he's definitely the more like ground and pound defense, all sorts of things.
Okay,
one of the two. I definitely Kansas City. I think they're definitely winning the division. The last time that Kansas City scored fewer than 400 total points in a season is 2016.
And they do well. And that's how big the gap was between that and then this last year, where they scored 371. Right. Yeah,
and I don't think that happens again because
I want to see.
Last year you had a slower start with that offense. Like there was a lot of people in fantasy football that drafted Travis Kelce in the first round because of that connection, especially PPR leagues. And that was what everyone expected. And even Patrick Mahomes took a step back in terms of scoring production and things like that last season. And I think that this season is more of a regression, but in this case, it's not actually a regression. It's more of a return to the mean. Whereas, like, so 2022, they scored 496 points as a team. 21, 480. In 2020, they had 473. In 2019, they had 451. 2018, they had 565. Like, this
That's such an
offense,
insane number.
yeah, this offense is nutty. And it's going to return to at least 400 points scored. Now, the defense, I don't think is going to be as good. So the offense is going to have to score more because obviously you lost L'Jarius Sneed. That's a big part of your defense. However, you still have Trent McDuffie, you still have Justin Reed, you still got Brian Cook. Like, you still have some other guys there. Nick Bolton should be healthier. Nick Bolton was hurt a lot last year. Drew Tranquil is there. He's a solid linebacker. Derek Nottie is on the PUP list right now, so you're still waiting on him coming back. But you have Chris Jones, who's one of the best defensive tackles in the entire league. Mike Dana and George Karlaftis played big roles as the defensive ends there. Like, you still have a good bit of the defense around that is important. Obviously, you just don't have your big cornerback in L'Jarius Sneed. However, the offense did retool a bit. You're not relying on Sky Moore to be your number one receiver. Rashee Rice, despite the legal issues he's gotten into, he is still there. They bring in Xavier Worthy. Hollywood Brown did get hurt, and he won't be back for a little while. However, once he comes back, Hollywood Brown's going to be Hollywood Brown. Travis Kelce's still there. Noah Gray, underrated backup tight end. He's proven to be a solid pass catcher himself. Isaiah Pacheco, I love him as a running back. Pacheco is a bruiser. He's fast. He'll be the workhorse type of back. And then you can throw passes to Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Deneric Prince. I mean, this offense still has all the tools. They're going to be fine. Kansas City, I think, is going to win this division. It might not be like by a super wide margin because the other teams are getting better in terms of the Raiders and the Broncos, but I think they'll win handily. And then we get to the Raiders. I agree that the Raiders, I think, improved, especially when you give them a full season with the new coaching staff. And, you know, now they're figuring out the quarterback thing beforehand. You're not just trying to force Jimmy Garoppolo in there. If you've seen the wide receivers show on Netflix, Devontae Adams did not like Jimmy Garoppolo.
I thought he was going to murder him in the middle of a game.
I did too, and I wouldn't have blamed him.
I thought he was literally going to like, Myles Garrett to Mason Rudolph helmet fucking Hulk smash. Like, I literally thought he was going to kill him.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, the trio is like, okay. Like, Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers, you bring in from New England, cool. And obviously Devontae's Devontae. We all know what we're getting.
Myers had a solid year last year.
You get rid of Josh Jacobs because he was kind of being a bit of a locker room cancer by the end there.
Yeah.
And I kind of can't be that mad at him. Like, you've played your whole career as a member of that organization. They really haven't won shit. And you've had some good years. I get frustration. It's just for that, like, Zamir White definitely stepped up. He's earned a number one spot. We'll see how that pans out.
Madison's a solid backup.
Agreed. And then Amir Abdullah has somehow resurrected his career as like a return guy, which I think's awesome.
I agree.
Super stoked for him. They have a potential for the best tight end duo if Michael Mayer can like realize that he's supposed to be really good. Because Brock Bowers is really good. So,
and I'm sure instead of Trey Tucker, that Bowers is going to be lining up at wide receiver plenty.
Yeah. And then you can put in a guy like Jalen Guyton if you want to run four, you know what I mean? Like, just for speed. Like, it is what it is. But
the defense, though.
The defense should scare the shit out of people. Genuinely.
Yeah, that's my main thing that I like about the Raiders. Like, not only did you have Max Crosby, who was already fucking one of the best defensive linemen in the league, But you bring in Christian Wilkins from Miami, who was also one of the best defensive linemen in the league. And John Jenkins, he brought in, he's solid. Divine Diablo, he's been really good. Robert Spillane is good. You bring in Marcus Epps for strong safety, who's been solid. Like they have a solid defensive lineup that I'm excited to see.
But that's the reason that I look at Kansas City's point total and could see it staying lower than people expect is because games like this against the Raiders they're not gonna score as much. Because I think like that second Raiders Chiefs game of the year, you could just see that energy because Coach Pierce doesn't fuck around. And that was what I loved about the receiver show is you see the transition from one staff to another in the middle of a season and how big of a difference it made. The vibes were there. And the Raiders are all about the energy. Like my dad grew up a Raiders fan. It's just like watching old tape and everything. Like if you were playing the Raiders, you were scared. The only teams that weren't were like the Steelers back then because they were just as good. This team has so much potential. They have to put it together. And I look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. Like we know what we're getting, right? So I agree with you on that. Like you bring in Xavier Worthy because they really did need to actually put some stock in receivers. Like when Hollywood Brown comes back, obviously that helps a lot. Mecole Hardman stuck around this time, which he has experience there. He's had the biggest moment you can have, a literal Super Bowl winning catch. Game ended when he caught it. So that's that. Justin Watson has been he's gained a lot of trust because he's earned the trust in that when the ball is thrown to him, he catches the fucking ball. Unlike the guy now behind him, finally on the depth chart, Kadarius, I suck ass at football, Tony. Yeah. Like they have more depth in positions that I guess Mahomes would care about because he wants to have faith in the guys he's throwing to. Because it really is, it's the same thing as like the Patriots used to do. It really didn't matter who was throwing to; it was going to work. It's Brady. It's the same thing with Mahomes. But obviously, if the guys have bricks for hands, that's not the case. But
exactly,
they're a scary team. I think it's just always like that.
Yeah.
People didn't think they were going to win the Super Bowl last year when the playoffs started, and look what they did. So
exactly. I see this division finishing the same way it did last year, which I know isn't an exciting answer, but I do still see the Raiders as better than the Broncos. I like Raiders defense more than the Broncos defense. Despite having Gardner Minshew, the Broncos also have a rookie quarterback, and notoriously having a rookie quarterback is very volatile for a season unless you have one of the best rookie quarterbacks, like a CJ Stroud or something, which is obviously yet to be seen. So that we'll just have to wait to see that. But I could see at least one other team other than the Chiefs from this division making the playoffs. Like if, only two teams from the AFC North make it, or I could see only one team from the AFC East making the playoffs. And then, a team from the AFC West jumping in there.
If I had to just look at this right now, because we're thinking seven teams make it, right? Is where we're at now. So I would say, yeah, I'll say Bills, Dolphins, and the Bills probably are 7 seed. I think this year, I think they'll get in as a 7. Okay, I just don't know what that offense can do. I know they scored a shit ton last year, but all the receivers they were scoring with are gone. So, So I'll say Dolphins win that division. They'll be I'll say 3 seed overall. I'll have Baltimore and Cleveland getting in. Baltimore will be the 1 seed. Cleveland will be the 6. No, Cleveland will be the 5. I'll have Cleveland as 5. They'll be the number 1 wild card, I think.
Okay.
I'll have Houston being the 2 seed. And I actually don't think What are we at now? 4. We're at 5 with Houston. Yeah. So Houston will be the 2. I think the Chiefs will be
The 3.
Yeah.
Or no, you said the Dolphins at 3.
It'll be the Chiefs or the Dolphins at 3 or 4, just to like rotate it. You know what I mean? Like I'll say that, and then I'll say the Raiders get in as the 6.
Okay.
I think they will. I think they'll put it together enough that they'll. Because I think Minshew is reliable enough. Like I don't care, he's been a backup, whatever. Like when he's been thrown in, games are winnable or won. Like the reason the Colts went 9-8 is because Minshew in 14 games had 3,300 plus yards passing. That's good. Like it's just good. Like you can't even knock it. And then like when
their
he had
defense
to play,
was not great.
Exactly. Like you see their points for, points against. They had the most points for in the whole fucking division.
Right.
But they also had the most points against by like a lot. So you can't win games like that. And
exactly.
Now you're giving him a defense, which we're agreeing is like scary.
Yeah. Second best in the division.
Yeah, and they're going to play like hell for their coach, who also is a Super Bowl winning linebacker. So it's like that's his mindset, is a defense that wants to fucking hit people. So that's why I'm just like the Raiders could absolutely get into the playoffs and win a game, before they run into one of these like just clearly better overall teams. But yeah, I think that would be your 7 to make it. So
I would probably to wrap things up, I think Miami is the only AFC East team to make the playoffs, and I would put them. I think I'm going to put them 3rd, and then I'm going to have the Ravens, Bengals, Browns all make the playoffs. Ravens will be 2nd seed, Browns will be 5th, Bengals will be 7th.
Okay.
Texans will get in as the 3rd seed. Chiefs will be the 1st, and Raiders will be the 6th. I think.
Okay, so we agree. We agree on the Raiders.
Yeah.
I just like the way they finished last season. I like the draft. It all works.
I think Buffalo will be right on the cusp of that 7th seed, but miss out by like a tiebreaker or something.
So it'll be kind of like last year, where if they didn't win in that last game, they wouldn't have made it.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that, and even thinking about it like that, they literally had to win their final game to even get in, and it ironically won the division because of it. However, all those guys are gone, so it would actually. I kind of agree with you a lot there.
And in my head, I keep thinking like, oh, they lost a bunch of wide receivers, but like they lost a ton of defenders too.
Yeah, it's just a different. Okay. I think I like your prediction a little bit more, because thinking about it like that, it would make way more sense for the AFC North to be the team that sends a bunch of teams to the playoffs again. Like it was 3 last year. Obviously, if the Bengals stay healthy, then if they stayed healthy last year, everybody kind of assumes that the Steelers obviously would then have not made it.
Because they were only 1 game apart as is.
Yeah, without Burrow for like 8 weeks. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think your prediction does. I think it fits a lot better.
Yeah.
I just want to see the fucking Raiders back in the playoffs, man. I really do.
I know. Yeah, I do too. It should be interesting.
It's fun for football.
Agreed. But we will get to the AFC division champion or predictions and the award predictions. We'll get to those next week, because we'll be back on Monday nights again.
And it's going to be probably really consistent for once, guys. It's not going to be like a freaking, what day can we do? 1 p.m. on a Saturday. Heard like.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll have things. We won't have as much to cover all in one episode, since we won't be out for so long. So we won't be just rambling on all sorts of different topics. So we'll be, if anyone has questions like Richard did, always helpful. And we're always ready to help out anybody in that situation too. So,
and it's fun to interact with you guys, and it's like Doesn't have to be fantasy football questions. Could be kind of like anything. So
Yeah, because I mean we talked reality TV here, so it can literally be anything. But that is it for us this week. If you guys want to just listen to the podcast, we are putting it out on Spotify, Apple, all the audio platforms you can think of. We usually post it the next day. You can find it on there. Otherwise, we are on YouTube. So please subscribe below if you like it. Hit the bell. It lets you know when we go live. We go live with every episode of each week. So we will check you guys on the next one. Peace.